Good evening, Cheeseheads. Welcome to another dose of the Cheese Rooms World Cup show. Tonight you've been served up me and HG, as people have called us, the brains in the bullshit. So tonight we'll dissect what's happened in the two games and where that leaves England. But yeah, at the end of the day, HG, happy with that, ain't we? Beating the Welsh.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously it means so much to us to beat these poor minnows that were in their first World Cup. Since my mother wasn't even alive. Oh no, she was. Okay, but yeah, it's a long time. So like, I guess we all expected it a little bit, but it was more comfortable than we might have hoped for. So it was good. But yeah, next round, bring Sunday night
Yeah.
on. We've got to wait 6 whole days now. It's just like watching Spurs when we're rubbish and we're out of all competitions. I don't like this.
So Kerry's obviously gutted. We'll be gentle as we can with you tonight, Kerry. I promise I'll try. Bless. But I thought we'll start off with the England game. Um, First half, just a bit,
There was a
like I
first
think,
half.
yeah, we were England had a lot of the ball, didn't they? And it was sort of like defense against attack. But I don't know what to say really. HG, I was just going to go straight to the free kick, but
I think the important thing for the first half is that Foden was on the right, Rashford was on the left, which you think seems to would be logical for them because
yeah,
Rashford is much better down the left. But the only chance we really had was when Kane was able to get the ball a bit deeper and then find Rashford who was running through. We talked about that on previous shows about how
yeah,
like Rashford is probably the one player we have that will run beyond Kane. And we
mm,
saw it with that early chance, but outside of that, it was pretty standard. Like Wales were defending, happy for our defensive midfield to have it, and we didn't show a great deal of intent to go forward because we didn't need to win. So yeah, the first 45 minutes, if you were doing something else, congratulations.
yeah. It was a bit turgid, wasn't it? Do you know? It's just like a little bit slow. And I thought obviously we had a lot of the ball, but they were saying England's passing was good. I thought it was a little bit sort of like remember watching Spurs under Jose where the ball would sort of like go behind a player or into their feet rather than in front of them, and it felt a bit like that. But what? So you spoke a bit about Rashford. That so when the team lineup come out, you messaged me and you were like, oh shit, I might have to watch this game now. England has
Yeah,
changed their
because I
team.
really did. I really didn't want to, but when I saw that Sterling wasn't playing and like and Foden was, it felt, and we were four at the back because everyone had
Yeah,
talked about us being five at the back and that Henderson
yeah.
would come in for Bellingham, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to be sucked in again to watch this. And after 45 minutes, I thought, great, Southgate has proved that no matter the formation, he can play boring football.
Instinct. Yeah,
But yeah, like I mean, again, like it's good. Like even okay, of course, winning 3-0 is always good, right? But I
yeah.
feel like we saw stuff tonight that would hopefully make Southgate think a little bit about the next game. It's
Mm,
harsh on Saka that he didn't start. I will say that.
yeah.
But yeah, it was a case of what do you want to do, and Southgate decided to go for Rashford, and yeah, I don't know, but it was. I think we saw enough tonight to think that we're going to go four at the back again against
Yeah.
Senegal.
I mean, like, it'd be interesting to see what he does next time, didn't he? Because obviously, Foden come in and scored. Rashford's had a couple. I thought Rashford in the first half, he gets in some really good positions, but his final ball and just a few of his touches was like so loose and so bad, and then obviously he goes and smashes that free kick in, which, by the way, I think I could have done just as good job as is it Danny Ward, the Wales goalkeeper. Oh my days, he's
It,
bordering on
it,
pathetic. Yeah, just
it's
sort of like threw
oh
himself across, put his arm up, just like it looked like a computer game. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I think I'll be interested to see what he does. Do you think he'll bring Saka back in or Sterling? Because obviously Sterling's one of his men, isn't he?
no, I mean like because they both scored. I mean
Mm.
Southgate has this idea like if Southgate wants to keep the job long term, then the way to make sure that doesn't happen is to change the winning team, right?
Yeah,
That team won. It played okay. Of course, Wales weren't great, but we got the job done, and those players that came in scored. So yeah, it is harsh on Saka, who's obviously scored two in the first game,
yeah,
but you've got to figure out what's going to work best. Like Henderson, I thought did okay. It allowed Bellingham to get a bit further forward, and if
yeah,
anything, I felt that in the first half especially, but even in the second half, we were a bit bunched up. Like the
Yeah,
players were kind of getting in each other's way because the fullbacks were bombing forward and Henderson was trying to get in the box because we really just left Maguire, Stones, and Declan Rice kind of to defend. And so it's a question then of like making sure that you get the right player. If you're going to do that, then the fullbacks need to be the width because Foden wants to cut inside, so does Rashford.
yeah.
But I'd be surprised. I mean, anything is possible, but I'd be surprised if he changes it too much for Senegal.
I mean, I'm with you because, like, my son was moaning about Henderson, and I thought he did start off. He hasn't played a lot of football, has he? Really lately, and and he was the same, a few loose passes and stuff. But I got to be honest, I thought he did well when he come on the other day, and I think he does add. It's hard to put my finger on what it is, but he does add something to this England team. I think probably this is going to be controversial, and people are going to go, ain't going to like this. But I think he's a far better captain than Kane is. Kane's captain on name and obviously his stature in the game. But I think Henderson's a far better captain than him. And like you could hear him on the pitch talking people around, and he's putting his foot in and pushing and driving people on. And I don't think I think he should be in there. I think he's a decent shout to. I mean, I found Rice tonight. Don't know about you. Just sideways and backwards. I didn't realise, I never thought he used to be that sort of, not negative, but Harry Winks-esque.
But I think that's his job now in this England side. Like I think he can do more, but
Yeah.
someone has to sit. Like when we played the Euros last year, it was him and Phillips was the one who sat, and that allowed Rice to be a bit more adventurous. And in this side, I don't think he's really allowed to do it, especially when you've only got two centre halves behind you, not three. So
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't think it's. I mean, personally, I think it's more what he's being asked to do in the system we have more than his entire quality. I think he's clearly much better than just a sideways, backwards passer.
Yeah. His answer, Adrian, I ain't got a clue. You tell us what his strike rate is.
Yeah, please look that up for us. It's
Yeah.
good to have to do that while we're live. But like, I don't think it's great. I will say that. I mean, like Rashford scored a few, but he's played a lot of games. But it's weird to think that between the penalty miss in the final Euros and the first game of this World Cup, Rashford didn't play for England at all. Like he missed the. I didn't realise that. Perhaps I should have done, but it came up in commentary, and I was like, wow, that's kind of mental that he's come into form for United, and he gets into the squad probably on merit, let's say.
Yeah.
And now he's scoring goals. I mean, that's what you want. But to not play for a year and a half and then suddenly be in when it matters, probably says something about him.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian says he questions his finishing, and I don't think his finishing is great. But what I'll give him tonight is he had that free kick, and what I always say about a free kick is hit the target. Try and hit the target. You might be like lucky to have a keeper as shit as Danny Ward in there, and all you got to do is literally pick your spot and hit it. And then on his second goal, to be fair, he ran into the space, he got the ball, and he was direct and he was positive. He ran into the box and he got his shot away, took a deflection off the hapless Joe Rodon, and Danny Ward again sort of got caught under his feet, but he was positive, and that's all you can ask from him. And the more confidence he builds, hopefully, because I didn't think his overall performance was that great, but I don't.
I mean, the weird thing. Rashford's never really been known for his finishing. He's not one of those Robbie Fowler type strikers who you think he's going to find the bottom corner no matter what.
No.
But he does get his fair share. I mean, when he's played in a decent position and he's played often for United, he's pretty much always scored goals. He's a 10-goal a season striker rather than a 20-25, but still there's a threat. And like it is weird the way it seems to be working now with the way with Foden. Foden does look better down the left. Which kind of complicates things a little bit. But if Foden's on the left, the best finisher that England has outside of Kane, sadly, is Mason Greenwood. And obviously he's not going to be playing.
You're not going to see him play for England, mate.
No, exactly. And I don't want to, obviously. What we know. But the team is crying out for someone like him, who's left-footed, coming in off the right and can find the goal. Yeah. England right now, it's that there is no perfect 11. Like if Foden was better down the right, you could make a case for it. But is Saka going to be that person on the right with Foden on the left now? I don't know. But if you do that, then you lose Rashford. So it's like there's never going to be a perfect solution to those front three, front four players.
I mean, you like Saka, don't you? I'm not convinced. I know that there's a decent player there, and he does well for Arsenal, and he obviously did well for England against Iran. There's just something about. I'm just not convinced by him. There's just something I don't get about him. Something that I don't see, and I think I
I,
would prefer Rashford there at
Yeah,
the
I mean, this is it.
moment.
Like, I don't think it's going to change. I mean, Rashford down the right is like watching Richarlison down the right.
Yeah,
It's not a natural thing for him.
no,
But if it gets Foden playing better down the left, then I guess you have to do it. But we are crying out for someone on that right hand side who's a bit more comfortable. And to me, Saka, since he plays there all the time, is the logical choice. Saka is one of those players who he's a decent finisher, right? And he's very deliberate about what he wants to do, and you
yeah,
know what he's going to do before he even
yeah.
does it, really. However, he manages to get it done, despite the fact that people know what he's going to do, and there's something to that. And I don't think that. I certainly think he's worthy of his place in the squad, and
Oh yeah,
now it's
yeah,
just about
definitely.
finding. No, I mean I know you agree with me on that, but
Yeah,
it's about finding that 11 that works. And we've got Senegal in the next game. Maybe that's not one for Saka. I don't know. Maybe he's best off the bench in those cases. But we're missing we're missing something down that side for sure.
yeah. Well, let's have a little chat about Wales. Um, I was surprised they went to a back four because they usually do play a back three, don't they? HG, that's their sort of like go to. Obviously, big Kiefer Moore came in up front. Who they were all saying the other day, "Oh, if we'd have had Kiefer Moore, useless." I think. Did you see that? Obviously, he was getting a bit of stick off. Who's the bloke who follows Man United? Sits on his computer watching them.
Goldbridge.
Yeah,
Goldbridge.
Goldbridge was basically saying playing him. Well, I ain't going to go into it. You'll find it on Twitter. But yeah, I thought they were poor. HG, really poor. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're also kind of stuck in between two decisions. Like if they play defensive and they go with the back three, then great. But you need to have some way of holding it up.
Yeah,
And they decided not to do that. But they don't have enough in attack. They've got
no,
lots of. I mean, like again, Brennan Johnson's not a bad player. Daniel James on his day is not a bad player. But if one of their two previous world class players
yeah,
doesn't show up, then they are very very limited.
yeah.
And so when Bale went off at half time, which I don't know why, was he injured? Did he have a golf tee time? Like I don't know what the deal was, but when you saw that and it was 0-0, and you thought they only need a goal. I mean, like just a rash challenge from some
Yeah.
defender at a free kick, and they get a penalty, and that's it. That seemed very very strange. I don't know what happened there, but
Well,
yeah, Wales probably, if you look at it now, were lucky to get 1 point out of their three
yeah.
games because that was a gift really from America.
Yeah. Well, when Bale, we all love Bale. All Spurs fans who are on here, Bale. What we saw from Bale at Spurs was amazing, but he is so far removed from that bloke now. And I genuinely think all these times when he stayed at Real Madrid and never played, and he came to Spurs, and I never felt he was like he said he was, but I never really felt he had that desire to push himself and play week in week out and really turn it on for Spurs. And I think that's come back to like he was desperate to play in this World Cup. But I think the way his career has gone in the past 5 years has like all this what it built up to today. I think that has hurt him because he's been
Yeah,
he's been non-existent really, hasn't he? HG? I know he won the penalty and scored the penalty, but
no,
you
he's done
wouldn't have
nothing.
even known he was
He's really done
playing.
nothing.
Yeah,
No, and like you can look back maybe. I mean, when he signed that 6 year deal at Real, that was going to take him to what 33, and they
yeah,
were going to pay him 500 grand a week. Like, yeah, it makes sense because you're at Real Madrid and they were winning Champions League, so you want to be part of that, and they were willing to pay him a load of money to do it. But when they weren't playing him, when Zidane and he fell out, and he had 2.5, 3 years on his deal, and it became clear that
yeah.
he wasn't desperate to go and play football somewhere. He was quite happy to be where he could. So I don't know. Like I'd rather remember Bale when he was good than what we've seen the last
Absolutely.
3 years or so. It's a shame.
It's a shame that, and it's like a shame really that he couldn't even, couldn't even really put any stamp on the game at all, could he? On it in anything really, he's bladdered that penalty, and the same can be said really of Ramsey. They were like the mainstays of that, and Joe Allen. I've never really rated him, but they were the mainstays for Wales, and they were sort of shadows of their former selves tonight, weren't they? It was sort of like they'd waited all their lives for that, and
Well, I think
they
we
were
talked
shit.
about it on Friday when you said that one of those players you can carry, right?
Yeah,
but two of them you can't, and
yeah,
three tonight.
no
Like
chance.
it's actually kind of sad that this was the time that they qualified. You know, like
Yeah,
had they not done it and they just had Euro 2016 to remember, well, they got to the semi-finals. It was a brilliant tournament,
yeah,
and they still would have had this idea of like, we can get to the World Cup at some point. I mean, you look, Bale's going to retire, so you look at their squad now, they will struggle to make
yeah,
anything. And it was
absolutely.
only really, it came through the playoffs and they got, two home games to get through the playoffs to get to the World Cup. Like, I don't want to, kick them while they're down, but you can look at them and think, like if I'm Ben Davies, I'm not going to play for Wales anymore. I mean, like
Nah,
I mean, maybe there's a pride there, but he's
yeah.
almost 30. You could think, I'll keep myself club football fit, and we'll go from there. There's a lot of reasons to say to Wales, I'm not sure I need to be part of the next generation coming through.
Hang on, I'm just gonna. No, no Americans tonight. We were worried you were going to finish above us, so we didn't ask any Americans on.
I,
No,
Jack, when it was 2-0 to England, I did switch. I did go to the America game to watch the last half an hour. So does that count? I mean, I've put the sign up behind me so it's more central,
yeah.
so you can kind of see that we're somewhat American. But
No, Jack's always we'll always welcome other people on. It was just like literally bit not a rush show, but we just sort of wanted to crack on after tonight and add stuff on. But
we
obviously
can
we'll
have
get all the
have one of you on Friday night to preview the
well
Holland game.
definitely
That would be
yeah,
great.
well, definitely. Yeah, definitely. If you, hey Jack, give us a thumbs up if you want to come on Friday night and we'll book you in. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean HG, I think Davis, I don't think he will turn his back on Wales. I don't see him being that type of player. And I think Roden, what I've seen of Roden in this World Cup is probably what I think other Tottenham managers have seen, which is nothing special, isn't it?
I got a lot of stick
Mm,
because I've always felt that. I mean, again, like his debut for Spurs was at Chelsea. We got a 0-0
yeah,
draw. It was a good result, and I just thought, no, there's something's not there. And it's kind of similar to Sessegnon. They just look
yeah,
nervous.
yeah,
And so, like, I get for Wales that obviously, they played a bit defensively. He gets a few blocks in, looks quite good. But I don't think he's anything more than a Southampton centre back,
no,
kind of lower end of the Premier
yeah,
League. Might play regularly, but he's not going to be
yeah.
Spurs, no.
I think Wales, when you look at them, are littered with players who are probably extremely good Championship players
Hmm.
come into the Premier League and like Mepham, Bournemouth, Bournemouth have done all right this season to be fair to them, but those types of players they haven't got. Like obviously Bale was Galactico, Ramsey was playing it like Juventus in Arsenal. They had Joe Allen was at Liverpool for a time, but now they don't have any of that, do they? They're just sort
No.
of like
And
they're
I mean,
just
there are plenty of European teams like this. Like,
yeah,
Wales went from a side that could qualify if things went their way, and now they'll need a lot more to qualify. But there are plenty of teams in Europe that, if you have a really good system and maybe one very good player, or you ride your luck at the right moment, you can go
yeah,
through. You can make tournaments. But sadly, Wales' time as a team that could even see themselves as getting through, like even with the
yeah,
48 team World Cup, which I don't think is set, but if they do that, I still think Wales might struggle,
yeah.
sadly.
It's like our Dave said, didn't he, in the group? Dave, he said, we really should. They should have a tournament where they get to play like the Faroe Islands and teams like that, and Luxembourg to see if they
It's an
qualify.
interesting idea. Yeah, like I think when we were chatting during the game, Dave was like, "Look, 32 teams as it is, we've still got a number of teams that aren't
Yeah,
really good enough." Like I'm not being funny. I would rather
Malta.
see. I would rather see teams like Sweden make the World
Yeah,
Cup,
yeah,
and Italy. Obviously, you
yeah,
want to see the best, and through a luck of the draw or whatever, Sweden had to play away in their playoff game, and Wales played at home,
yeah,
and that was really the difference in those ones. So. It would be an interesting idea because I think that March Madness, the basketball thing, has something like that where they have
yeah,
in effect a 64 team bracket, but there's maybe 4 or 5 games get into that 64 team bracket. So if they managed a 24 team like qualifiers throughout the world and then said, right, the
yeah,
next 16, you can have even 2 legs. Because they're all about making money, right? So if they
yeah,
said, right, you can have a 2 leg playoff to see which teams make it through, I'd watch that. I think a lot of
yeah,
people would. So
yeah.
it's a
Like
better
Tommy
idea
says here,
than
look. the FIFA
Yeah,
Checker Trade
under
Trophy.
21s. Yeah, they
Yeah,
put the England under 21s in, see if they can make the World Cup too. But no, I mean, I think that's you want to have the better teams make the finals. You do it. Like, as much as it's
yeah,
funny to see Italy not make it through their own idiocy,
yeah,
um, like it does kind of devalue it a little bit. So
yeah.
you want to have. I mean, there's no
'Cause-
guarantee that they would make it. They
no.
could still lose a playoff game for that, but there's I don't know. Like
Because
watching some of these
qualifying now,
games.
HG, is a drab affair, isn't it? International qualifiers for World Cups and Euros is, you get like Italy didn't make it this time. You get one, but usually the games are pretty cat, aren't they? So, but what we'll do is before we go on to like England's,
Hmm.
onto the next round, we'll have a chat about the USA Iran game. Keep the natives in the comments happy. You obviously watch the second half. I only watched the first half highlights. What I've got to say is when they showed the highlights of the first half, what I like about the USA is they've got runners. They have, they've got obviously England don't. They've got a lot of pace in that team, and American they seem to be able to get about the pitch, but their fullbacks beat people. And I know teams probably don't sit back as deep as they do against England, but they've got their fullbacks are running. They got midfield runners. I think what Jack said, obviously I wouldn't have any idea about it until Jack sort of says it, and then you watch, you see that America, if they can get a decent and real top centre forward coming through by the time the next World Cup comes, they'll be a decent team in that tournament, won't they?
Yeah, I mean, and the
I
thing
think
with
they
the
will
Dutch
anyway.
is, I mean, the Dutch. I mean, the thing with the
Yeah,
Americans, they play the same no matter what.
yeah,
Right, no matter who they play, they're going to play the same. And it's weird because I've read enough about the Americans before the tournament to everyone was thinking that Berhalter was going to be this boring manager, and they didn't really know what was going to happen. And they've come out and played 3 games and been relatively attacking in all three. They've kept mostly the same team. They made a few changes for the England game,
mm.
but they went back to having Sargent up front tonight. They brought Carter Vickers in at centre half, which they kept a clean sheet, so that certainly wasn't a negative move. And they deserve, and I think they were the second best team in the group, so they
Yeah,
deserve to be in the next stage. But yeah, like America, they'll give anyone a game, and the Dutch, considering the Dutch are very much England in orange, with a very defensive
yeah.
manager, player back five. Like I know America had a few injuries tonight, which could hurt them, because I know Pulisic went off at half time and McKennie went off relatively early in the second half because of injury. And if they're missing a couple of those, then they will struggle a bit more. But Aronson is not much worse than Pulisic, and so they're still a decent side, and well played. They needed the victory and they got it done.
So what were you obviously watched the second half? What were Iran like? Because I mean, Iran were woeful against us, and I watched them against Wales, and now I've seen Wales. I think, well, you ain't got to do much. I didn't. I thought Wales were awful. So were Iran ever in the game, or was
I
it the
mean, in the
USA?
first, yeah, go on. Sorry.
Was it just no? Was it just like a USA got 1-0 up and really couldn't? I think they had a second goal disallowed, didn't they? Jack said in
They
the
did.
chat, and
Yeah.
and were Iran ever threatened or
Well, I know in the first half they didn't have a single shot. And towards the end, it was very much like, America's trying to defend deep, and there was a possible half penalty right at the end where Carter Vickers put his hand on the striker's shoulder, and the striker went down, the ball went through the keeper's legs. It was all slapstick.
yeah?
But I don't think that was a penalty. It would have been really harsh to give that. So I don't remember Turner having to make too many saves. Certainly not any difficult ones. But Iran were definitely on top towards the end because they were throwing people forward because they knew a goal would do
Yeah.
it. But when it comes to quality and organisation and being a team, I think the Americans were much better.
Yeah. So obviously USA go through as second in the group. Holland on Saturday afternoon, which when England were really bored, I found the first half boring, and during the week I was thinking, God, I hope we finish second. At least I'll get a day on the piss on Saturday. Then when we scored and out the free kick, I was like, oh, Sunday night it is then. But obviously, so the Americans now they got Holland on Saturday.
Mm.
I think that'll be a decent game.
Yeah, it might well be the first game of the knockout stage. I think
Mm.
it is. Um, yeah, I'm interested in that. I mean, I lived in Holland for
Yeah.
2.5 years. I speak the language. My wife's American. My wife, when I told her what was going on, she was like, "Does that mean we're going to be against each other again?" And actually, I don't think so. Because I want the Americans to go through, if only for the fact that I think they play better football. The Dutch have better players, and they're
Yeah.
certainly better individuals when it comes to, Gakpo is very good, but when it comes to a team, they were quite boring today. They got the job done against Qatar, but they weren't massively exciting. So that will be a fun game to watch because whatever happens, the Americans will just play their normal game.
Yeah.
They won't change anything.
What are you? So, what are you think? What are you thinking about the outcome of that HG then? Because, like, obviously, from what I've seen, I think, I think the USA could shock them just because of their running and their sort of like enthusiasm and their energy and stuff like that. I've got a feeling USA can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and to be fair, I would probably say the same about Senegal too. Like they have enough to trouble England, but the Americans, like I'm sure Holland will start as favourites, but there's going to be a lot of money going on America to
Yeah,
shock it a little bit. And again, we talk about America hosting it in 4 years' time. They get to the quarterfinals, there's a chance they may, the draw might open up for them because if Poland win Group C, and then Denmark or Australia in Group D, that's suddenly your quarterfinal opponent. So it's not guaranteed that they're going to get one of Argentina or France. That's going to be England's chance. So
yeah,
America could make a longer run than maybe we want them to or expect them to, just because the way the draw might pan out. It's tough to make predictions when you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But half the draw will be set tomorrow, or certainly
yeah,
like to get to the semi-finals.
yeah,
And it might open up for them. But they're a good side, and they've got. I mean, one of the comments talked about Musa being a really good player. I would agree with that. They've
yeah.
got some quality players, but to me, the Americans it's more a team. Like Sargent is not the world's best striker. I think he's at Norwich still in the
Norwich,
Championship.
yeah,
But he scored a few goals for Norwich this season. But Championship striker, but the team functions better with him. And how many times have we said that so far in this tournament, that teams function better with a striker, no matter how
yeah.
bad that striker might be?
Yeah. So, like, we'll move on. Like, obviously, Tom is putting here. He'd rather face the Netherlands and Senegal, based on what he's seen. Senegal are physical and front-footed. I think their front-footedness will suit England better. Still don't think we've really been tested defensively, and I'm not quite sure about our defense. But what do you think's that game then, HG? What do you think What do you think Senegal? Where do you think we could hurt them, and where do you think they'll trouble us?
I mean, it's all about how we use the ball, because there's a good chance we might have a lot of possession, but if it's just between the defence and midfield, well, I'm happy defending against that. We need to
Yeah,
get the ball forward and keep the ball in forward areas and put pressure on them. And England hasn't really shown an ability to do that against a decent side.
yeah,
So, I mean, we talked about, like, if England are going to go out, who they go out to, right? Holland or Senegal. And from a typical English perspective, you'd rather lose to Holland
okay.
because you could
Yeah,
say, the Dutch have a history, and we all know
yeah.
how good they can be, blah blah blah. And I'm assuming that if England were to lose to Senegal, that would
Oh
not go down very well,
no,
because there's still that kind of, well, we are just naturally better than them. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh because I don't live in England for a long time, but that
no.
strikes me as being a game where the media will almost expect
Yeah,
England to win, and I don't like.
but I think, I expect I expect that we should beat Senegal, rightly or wrongly, and I think the press will, and I think most of the fans will, because obviously higher ranked. We in the last two tournaments we've done really well, but how do you think the matchup between Kane and Koulibaly will go? Because obviously,
Yeah.
contrary to a lot of what a lot of people think, I don't think he looks extremely fit. I think he looks a little bit slow, a little bit sluggish. I think he played today because he said he wanted to play. I'm not sure. There's little bits and pieces coming out. How do you think that matchup will line up?
I think the 6 days will obviously help, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Kane's going to start, so there's no
Yeah.
issue
Oh,
there.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I just think, like, Koulibaly, again, he's a physical specimen, but we've seen playing for Chelsea that he's not a great defender. Like, he's a decent defender, but he's not the superstar that a lot of Spurs fans thought Chelsea were buying and were upset that we weren't
Yeah.
going in for him. So, weirdly enough, England's success, although Kane has not scored, he's had 3 assists. I saw. Yeah,
Yeah.
Adrian's just put it there.
Yeah.
Kane's getting involved at the vital moments. I trust him to do that against Koulibaly. I think the issue is going to be, do the other players around him get involved enough? Because we saw tonight that Rashford wants to get forward, Foden wants to get forward. The run that Foden went on to win the initial free kick that Rashford scored from
Yeah.
was the first time we really ran at them in the entire game. If we can do that, then they will struggle, because Senegal's fullbacks don't really, I'm not massively impressed by them. So it's all about England to me. If England do what they can do, then they've got more than enough to beat whoever is marking Kane, not just Koulibaly.
Yeah.
But I think it's still questionable whether we actually will.
So like for me, I'm on, as King Hoddle put in here. This is where I'm at with Kane. I love, no matter what I say about Kane, I love Harry Kane. He's probably, well, he is the best Spurs player I've seen play for Spurs in my lifetime. Goals and everything he does. I've seen some great players, but he is, and I love the bloke. He's an absolutely fantastic player, but I don't think he's had a great tournament. He has had 3 assists. The assist today was fantastic, but he has not been the Harry Kane I expected. I know he's not as, I know he doesn't get, I know he has to play different for England because he doesn't have the runners, or we don't sort of play, obviously he doesn't play like Spurs. And I saw someone say the other day, with his pressing, he's clever with his pressing. I don't believe that. I don't believe he can press. I think against the Americans, I think Mount and Henderson were doing his pressing, because I don't think he can physically do that anymore. And I think his movement has been poor. And I'm not saying he's a poor player, but I think his movement has been poor. And I think as you get further in the tournament, and maybe in games like this, they are going to need a little bit more from him. And obviously, the further you progress, so his assists have been brilliant. And for me, HG, I don't know if you get, like in the first game when he played well, remember when Perisic came for Spurs, we were all expecting this like winger who takes people on. Then people started saying Perisic plays like a 34-year-old bloke, which is what he is. Well, Kane, to me, he looks like a 34-year-old quality player who just literally wants to take 1 or 2 touches but we're going to need more from him. In my opinion, for the player he is, we're going to need more from him. We're going to need him to be sharper and quicker now, from now.
Yeah, I think it's all about what you want from him, right? Because if Rashford is playing, then we don't have the creativity. So if Kane is not being that focal point really and likes to drop deep, that doesn't matter if you have someone replacing that person. Like the team doesn't press as a team, never has done, never will do under Southgate. And tonight you saw that with the Welsh defending so deep, where's Kane going to run to? Right, like it's not a case of if I close down the goalkeeper and you close down the fullback, we can make a mistake from them, because that never needed to happen. It's rough a game like tonight because Kane doesn't move a lot, but in a game like tonight, where is he going to go?
Fair enough.
If you're playing, if we're under the cosh and you need someone who can hold the ball up and run the channels, then that's never been Kane's game really. So, I mean, as Adrian says, like Kane is there because, like, we talk about England needing a number 10 or Spurs needing a number 10. Kane provides that. So whereas Son would cut in off the left for Spurs, and maybe Rashford's going to do that, or someone else will do that for England, it will still work. But if you want, I mean, I don't see Kane ever really being the player that he was.
Never,
5 years ago.
never.
Because that's just like every player changes a
His
little
body
bit as they get older.
Yeah.
And Kane is so good at the other stuff that if it wasn't even trying to come back and be that creative player, then people would be complaining even more, because he would just be standing there waiting for something to happen. So he's kind of stuck between,
rock in a hard place.
There's no good answer.
No.
But I think that what do you want from your main striker? Like in this case, I want him in the box. If the ball didn't fall to him tonight at all,
no,
all their half chances before we scored, anything fell to other people. If it falls to Kane, I expect it to, at least be on target and maybe find the bottom corner. So he needs to be in those positions. I just feel that if he was to run more, you're going to lose what makes Kane so great, the England team so much.
So like his lack of pace doesn't worry me. It's never worried me. He's a quality player. One of my other favourite players, Teddy Sheringham, never had any pace, but he was a quality player. I'm not.
King Hoddle said it in 15 words.
Yeah.
So I just spent 2 minutes saying that's exactly it.
Yeah, I mean the service. Like no matter how well we played, even in the 6-2, in a lot of the games England have played in, the service to him for the past few years, even it's amazing. Really, he scored all these goals, but exactly that's what I meant. That's what I said.
Yeah, that's what he said.
But
Yeah.
like the service to him is poor from him. We just like for me, I don't think we play in the forward areas. We don't play enough to his strengths. But obviously, he's the guy, like you said, who links it up. But I just feel like it's now from now on. Yeah, obviously Kane, we know what he can do, but I do feel we're just going to need a notch up from him a little bit. We're going to have to get him a little bit sharper. Do you understand what I mean when I'm saying that?
Oh,
HG? I'm not trying
absolutely,
to say yeah,
absolutely. No, I mean,
because
I think that like we were spoiled at the end of last season as Spurs fans because we saw
yeah,
Son, Kane, and Kulusevski, and between the three of them,
yeah,
they had enough of everything. Right?
yeah,
Kulusevski has the creativity that Kane does. He's the
yeah,
ability to beat a man that Son does. Son has the pace, but do you mean the three of them worked really well together?
yeah,
They complement each other. And as we talked about earlier, England don't really have a three. You could maybe get it in four players, but then you're saying, well, then I've got to play maybe two more defensive midfielders, and then Bellingham loses out most likely.
yeah,
And then you think, well, Bellingham needs to be in the team somehow. Like we have a lot of players that somehow need to be in the team, whether it's Foden or
yeah,
Kane or Bellingham or whoever, and finding the balance around those three, which to me, they
yeah,
are England's three best attacking players. That's the key because we've tried it with three centre backs and it struggles a little bit because Bellingham has to be a box to box midfielder in that. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think for Kane. Kane's not shooting. Kane's not really getting the ball in an area where he can shoot. England, obviously against America, didn't play particularly well. Today, the job was done without really Kane. So it's like, yeah, it's a weird one. But maybe against the bigger teams in the bigger moments, he'll come through. I know a lot of people say that he doesn't do that for Spurs. I don't agree with that. But it's those big moments where you get maybe one good chance. I would still trust Kane to take
yeah.
it, and it's up to everyone else to create a system that can really help him help them.
So obviously we go. So we go into the knockout stages now. So what I've always said, before the tournament, 7 points minimum from this group. I expect from England. We got the 7 points. Find watching England in those sort of scenarios, like in the qualifiers for these tournaments, a turgid experience. I'm sort of hoping now, HG, we go into the knockouts and we'll see a little bit more because you've really got at some point you've got to try and win the game more, haven't you? You know what I mean? Really, we've come up against a few poor teams and one okay team in the group, so we haven't really. I don't think we've had to really push, have we?
I think if Southgate went to a back five against France, we could probably all understand it
Yeah,
because with Mbappe and the players that they have, you could see a 5-3-2 in that game might help. And
yeah,
if the two up top are Kane and Bellingham, that still might help. It's not an
yeah,
attacking two at all, really. But that's going to be the key game if it comes to that. But right now, yeah, you're right. It's about what gives you the best chance of winning, and
yeah,
given the strength of our attacking players, we've not seen. I mean, Grealish has come on barely. Madison's not come on at all. There's a whole bunch of creative players that we do have available to come in and maybe try and change things. But yeah, it's nice to see a 4-3-3 because I do think that will be England's best formation going forward. I do. Like in the odd game, the back five will come in useful, but you know, if we're playing Brazil, I'd rather see 4-3-3.
yeah.
Mbappe scares me because he's really, really fast and
He's
really
really,
will
really
punish
good.
you.
Yeah.
But there aren't many players around like him that really make me worry. And so it's all about England doing what's best for England. And to me, that should be 4-3-3 going forward.
So I've watched France, and I think you look at them, Mbappe, Dembele out wide look really good. But I've not been impressed with England so far, really. But there's we could still do something in this because I've not really seen a lot of teams that I think I don't want to face them. Have you, HG? Have you seen anyone who you think I don't want to play them?
I feel like in most tournaments, there's usually one team in the group stage that surprises everyone and plays good football, and you think, wow, they might go somewhere, and then in the first knockout game they get beat, and everyone's
Yeah,
like, oh, like what happened there?
yeah,
You're right. It hasn't really happened in this tournament. I've not
no,
looked at any team. Like I mean, only two teams won their first two games, right? It was France and Brazil. France were, I mean, they did enough to beat a poor Australia side, and the Denmark game was, level until what the last 10 minutes.
yeah,
They've not been amazing, but they do have the best player of the tournament, and
Mbappe.
yeah, and Mbappe. And so when the rest of the team is little more than functional, I mean, they're world
Yeah,
class players, but it's not that's probably enough to make them the best team of the tournament. It's a weak tournament because as I said earlier, like I feel like a lot of sides are missing something.
yeah,
Right, and not just something, but a big part of what makes a team successful. Like there, as I said, Germany looked better with the striker, but the striker's not great. Spain looked better with Morata, and Morata's been a figure of fun for 5, 6, 7
yeah.
years, despite having a decent record for wherever he's gone, bar Chelsea. So it's rough, but like you look at that French side, as you said, Dembele, and and they've got half a team not who are injured who should be there. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
madness when you think the players they
they are
haven't got
probably
there.
they are probably the favourites, and deservedly so. As much as I
Yeah,
don't want them to win, and I don't want to see Hugo lift the trophy again, I don't care if he Spurs. I saw it once, that's enough. But yeah,
and I think, and you say that, and I think like the best thing that could have happened for Brazil has happened. Like Neymar being out, the most overrated player on the planet. They'll probably be able to play better as a team without him. But I've not been that impressed with them really. I thought they looked better
no,
in the first game when Neymar did go off. They started knocking it around a bit more, taking just one or two touches. I think it's all
yeah.
about Neymar when he plays, and he's not a patch on Ronaldinho, the original Ronaldo or Rivaldo.
It's like with Neymar's situation, like because he and Vinicius Junior seem to be relatively similar. I mean, not similar players, but they like to be on that side of the pitch.
Yeah,
Vinicius is extremely direct and a real threat, and likes to take people on around the outside and
yeah,
see if he can run around them. Neymar's never really done that, certainly not for a long time. So they have issues there. There's a comment that Brendan put about Portugal.
yeah.
Yeah, like everyone forgets them. I mean, like I did. When I think about the seeds of who you expect to go far, I get to Brazil and then I'm like, okay, that's the end of the groups. No, Portugal are after that. Portugal have a really good squad, but again, it's the same. Like they don't have a massive weakness compared to some. They have good strikers. They've got Rafael Leao to come off the bench.
Yeah.
Andre Silva's in the squad and he's barely had a kick. Ronaldo, despite not being what he once was, is still starting every game. And Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva, like they
Silver.
have a
Yeah.
like I think Paulinho is much better than is it Carvalho, William Carvalho, and Paulinho
Yeah.
has been coming on. They are very deep, but do I trust them to really put it together? No, I haven't seen it. Like, they were fortunate to beat Uruguay. There's a penalty that never should have been given.
Ghana could have quite
Yeah.
easily have.
So it's just I don't know about Portugal. Like again, they Portugal are the type of team that will maybe win the group quite easily, and then they get Serbia or Switzerland or whoever in the next stage, and yeah, do I trust them yet? No. So the only one I really trust is Mbappe because he's done it at this level. Like he was the best player in the World Cup 4 years ago and basically won them the tournament. He could easily do it again, and that's yeah. As I said, I don't want that to happen, but they stand out to me.
I mean, yeah, he looks the outstanding player, doesn't he? So far, looks a great player. But Adrian, if that happens, happy days. That means it's
Yeah,
coming home, HG. So
it's not coming
you're
home.
not having that, are you? You're not having that. So
Like, even if we were playing Senegal in the final, I'd be
yeah.
sitting there going, oh no, I've been here before. I'm a Spurs fan. Like, don't ever count those chickens. Never. Or lions or whatever it is you want to count. Don't do it.
So how do we see the Senegal game going then, HG? Let's have a little talk about what we think, how we think it will go, and our prediction for the game. Go on, you first.
Nine letters, penalties.
I thought I'm gonna let
Yeah, of course you're going to
HG
say that.
talk. I thought he's
Sorry.
gonna get into it, do a real tactical in depth. Then I'll go, nah, fuck it, mate. It's going to penalties. It'll be a right stink out. You stole my
Um,
thunder.
it may not be a stink out, but
Yeah,
this is England. Like it might be a 1-1. I mean,
yeah.
the game that we played against
Colombia.
Colombia, was
Yeah.
that goalless? It was goalless, wasn't
No,
it?
it was no. We 1-0 up. Kane scored a penalty, and then didn't
Okay,
Yerry Mina score a header?
Yerry Mina
Right.
maybe.
To,
Okay,
yeah,
so yeah, I don't see a huge amount of goals. But if you're an England fan, you have to expect it at some point.
oh,
And you know,
yeah,
if we were to get past it and then play the French, well, I don't see it happening then.
yeah,
So it's isn't it always written? It's always
yeah,
written that England will get penalties. And like I think if we've got the right players on the pitch, we're good enough to score all five. And Pickford, we know, can save one. I'm not scared of losing on penalties. I just think that the combination of England's history
yeah.
plus Southgate, if there's 15 minutes to go and it's before
Dodgy
extra
subs.
time, we're going to play it safe, and then in extra time we're going to play it safe. So yeah, I expect a very late night on
Yeah.
Sunday, sadly.
So the brains has said penalties. The bullshit saying penalties. So you've heard it here first on the Cheese Room World Cup show. England. And how do you so are you going for a penalty win, HG, or
yeah. I
defeat?
think we'll go through. Yeah. I do think we'll go through.
Yeah. Watch it. Well, it's going to be one of them. I'm usually in the pub or somewhere or a club, sports club watching it. But I'm going to be at home,
But
so it's like I don't know where I'm going to. What am I? I'm just going to keep marching outside. Oh, it's going to miss. I can't watch this one. It's chaos, isn't it? When England have penalties, it's just
and
literally. It shouldn't be that stressful.
yeah, and I should say that last night when we talked about the games today, I said that I thought Ecuador would do enough, and that
Yeah,
Senegal wouldn't beat them, and they did. So yeah, all of my predictions take with a pinch of salt, but as an England fan, you can't. It's impossible to play a World Cup without a penalty shootout. I'm sorry, like unless you get knocked out in the group stages, I will always think it's going to happen at least once. So yeah, Senegal. But I mean, again, I hope
ah,
not. I hope it's an exciting game and it finishes
yeah.
4-2 or something like that. But I'd be surprised.
Oh, frigging penalties. Anyway, so tomorrow we've got 4 games. We've got Australia, Denmark, Tunisia, France. So what do you think is going to happen there, HG, in that group? What do you think we're
I
looking
mean,
at?
I'll be watching
Straightforward?
the Australia Denmark game because
Yeah,
that's the one that really matters. I think the Danes will win. So France to be top and Denmark to be second. That's what I think. Yeah.
yeah. Højbjerg's had a quietly tidy tournament, hasn't he? I mean, I know, and Uruguay aren't playing tomorrow, but Bentancur was fantastic the other night, wasn't they? They've both been really good.
Yeah,
Thought,
like in Denmark when Denmark played France, their midfield two was Højbjerg and Eriksen, and I
yeah,
panicked a bit. I thought,
yeah,
is that going to be good enough to really to deal with it? And it was. I mean, Denmark weren't
yeah,
out of that game at all at any point. So Højbjerg's doing well. Whether Christensen is in the back three like he has been, or he moves forward to be defensive midfielder, that he's kind of like Denmark's Eric Dyer in the fact that he
yeah,
can switch if he needs to. But yeah, I think Denmark should have enough for Australia. If Australia get
yeah.
the result they need, and Denmark have to win, but I would expect France, Denmark to be the two that go through.
And then 7 o'clock, we've got the cracker that is Saudi Arabia, Mexico. Fancy Saudi Arabia to do a job?
No, no, I
No?
mean it's weird because I mean like I know they beat Argentina, but I didn't see that game. So it's really
Mm,
difficult. I read all about how brave they were going
yeah,
forward, and they played a high line, and like I believe it, but I just never saw it. So I feel like I'm not a great judge on what they could do. Obviously, if you beat Argentina, you're good enough to beat Mexico. But the 2 goals they scored were good goals.
yeah,
They weren't tap-ins. So yeah. Again, I'll be watching the other game. Right, Australia, Denmark, and Poland, Argentina are my two. They're the games I'll
yeah,
be watching tomorrow.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like Saudi Arabia do have the quality to win, and if they win, I think they're guaranteed to be second, right? So
Yeah, well, six
it's
points.
a
So,
big, at least top two. They'll be guaranteed to be
yeah.
top two. So
Here's one to just have a little natter about. What I've seen from Son is very much what I've seen of Son playing for Spurs. What do you think, HG?
I mean, like if you're your team's talisman, right? You're their best player, and you're not really getting the ball.
Mm,
Right? Like in most teams, if they've got a really good player, they look to feed them. Like even Portugal do it with Ronaldo when they don't need to. South Korea haven't really done that. Son is clearly thinking too much, like they did for Spurs. When he gets the ball, he's not playing on instinct. They looked much better in the second game when the big striker came on, but it didn't really change how Son was playing. So yeah, it would be lovely to see him go out with a couple of goals, like he did in
Yeah,
2018 when he scored against the Germans. But I. I fear that when we start up for Spurs at Christmas time, then Son will be what Son has been. He hasn't found a way to get out of that funk yet.
yeah. Like I said, I think the trick with Son is, I've said this once or twice on here now, so people will get bored of me saying it. Back in the Poch days, and I'm not waxing lyrical about Poch, but Son's always been streaky. He's always had periods of where his form hasn't been great. What Poch, because we had more players in those areas who could score goals or do what he did, used to bring him out, and he'd come in like he did against Leicester, and he'd bang an hat-trick, and then the next game he'd sort of keep him on the bench, and then he'd sort of unleash him again, and he'd get a goal, and then he'd put him back in the side, and he'd go on this run. And I think when he scored that hat-trick against Leicester, probably could have done with, being on the bench, and not because he's crap. I just think that's the type of player he is.
I think it's fair to say that when we play Brentford on Boxing Day, if all four of that front four are fit, then Son is the one that should be on the bench, because we've always had one injured. Like Kulusevski got injured quite early on in the season, so Richarlison had to play on that side, and then Richarlison was out for a bit, and then Son got injured. So Son's played every game almost through necessity, because Conte was never going to play Lucas, who was also injured, and certainly not Brian. So yeah, it feels like this period has gone on longer than we've ever seen with Son.
Yeah,
But I would hope and expect that if Richarlison, even if Richarlison gets to the World Cup final, I mean that's the only way I could see Richarlison not starting
yeah.
that first
Oh,
World
yeah, I
Cup.
agree. Yeah,
But otherwise, Richarlison down the left, Kane in the middle, and Kulusevski on the right would be the three. Based on the season so far, they're
yeah.
the three that should start, and that's
And
it. And the fact that Son scored a hat trick coming off the bench, just hammers that point even further.
And it's like, again, like with the Kane thing, obviously Son's one of the best players we've ever had at Spurs. But I'm not going to come on these shows and just and like
I was
and
skinny
say
once.
things, yeah, and say things I don't believe. If I can't, I'm not the sort who can, I'm not saying I'm making excuses for it. I'm just not that type. I'll just say what I see and what's best for the team, not because I love a player so much or hold them in
Yeah,
such high esteem. It is what it is, and he hasn't played well. He's not a bad player. He's not. He's a brilliant player, but he's in a funk, like you said. And I think there needs to be a way that he needs to be kicked up the arse. And some players do respond to that, don't they? And I think he's one of them.
yeah. I mean, this is it. Like none of us really know what will happen because he's never been in a slump like this. I mean,
No.
that's the key point.
Yeah.
Like he's had 4 or 5 games where he's not played well, but generally speaking, when he doesn't play well, he was still coming up with goals.
Yeah.
And then he'd play well and score, and you'd think, wow, you've got a world class player. But
Yeah.
like, rarely was it, I'm not playing well and I'm not scoring, which is what we've seen so far this
Yeah.
season. So it's, yeah, as we say, if we've got 4 world class strikers that we know we want to keep at the club, and we do want to keep all of those, and we're only going
Of
to play
course we do.
3, then Son, deservedly would be the one who starts on the bench. But that doesn't mean he's always going to be on the bench, and you wouldn't play the other 3 every game. You've got to find the system that works best for the team.
Yeah. See, I'm hoping this as well, HG. I mean, when we go back, I want to see Richarlison play down the middle. Not because I don't want Kane to play or I don't rate Kane, but Kane needs saving from himself at times. There's got to be times where, we're not starting it today. I'm starting Richarlison up there, just to give it. And that's what we bought Richarlison for, and we've got to start using him. I mean, he proved. I don't think he did too much against Serbia, was it?
No,
But tapped one
scored
in
twice.
and scored. Yeah, scored twice. So he's obviously capable of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot on Twitter about, Son can't play with Perisic. Perisic is the problem. He does much better with Sessegnon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's been half a season, and Son's not really been good with him. But
No.
yeah, there will be occasions, even in a game where you decide to switch for 15 minutes, where you say, right, Richarlison, you're going to bully the striker, you're going to run the channels, and Kane
Yeah.
can drop into that kind of inside left
Yeah.
pocket, and because he won't want to be in the wing where Perisic will want to be. That could work as well. The idea that like it's one or the other doesn't work. You could go 4-4-2 and have Son as a
Yeah.
left winger and Kulusevski on the right, and have
Yeah.
both of them. That could work too. It's
Yeah.
just it's about finding, getting them into form and finding something that works. I don't think anyone at Spurs thinks that we are good enough right now to play the same formation and steamroller teams like City do or
No.
Liverpool do or whatever. We are still going to be looking to try and find the best way forward. And yeah, I feel like Richarlison's best performances for Spurs have actually been as a central striker anyway.
Yeah.
Where he's played up top with Kane.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a month from now, but we've got, again, if they're all fit, we can't argue.
HG, you could go 3-5-2, and you've got when you can have options off the bench, Kulusevski and Son off the bench. You could play Kulusevski as that 10.
You just want to talk about Emerson, don't you? That's what you want to.
Oh, not yet. 2 weeks time, mate. We'll get straight back into Emerson.
Hey, Brazil didn't play a right back last night. So I'm thinking, Emerson, where are you, mate? This could have been your chance.
Yeah.
You've got Danny Alves in the squad, and you've got some other right back whose name suddenly escapes me in the squad. And they didn't play. They played a centre back there instead. Emerson, you should be there.
Well, hopefully for all the people in the comments, and tell your friends about this. We know how people go mad for transfer shows. We're working on everybody we've been linked to in the World Cup. We'll do a show and we'll get stuck into it. Who could come in on? There'll probably be quite a few right wing backs in there, I should imagine. So, but yeah, look. Thank you, everybody, for... We'll wrap it up there, HG. We'll be back in the next few days, won't we? But, thanks for everyone in the comments again.
Oh, he's gone. That's weird. I think we're still live. Hi, guys. I will say goodbye for him. I don't know what happened to him then. Obviously, some kind of hiccup down in the West Country. Here he comes again. But is he going to come? Here he comes. Here he comes. He's going to come back.
Don't know what's happened there.
Well, there you go. So that was fun for everyone. Gibbo's like, I'm off. See ya.
What happened there? Computer. Sorry, everybody. Technical difficulties, but yeah, no. Thanks for everybody in the comments getting joined in. We'll get an American on to come and talk about them on Friday, HG, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
But everyone. Thanks for joining in, and as always, it's coming home.
It's not coming home. It's not.